What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I am a little under the weather, so I just wanted to put that out there first. For those of you that are new here, welcome to the channel. I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday on bookish related content, primarily fiction. So if you have a fiction addiction like me, you're in the right place. For those of you that are returning, thank you for being here. It means the absolute world to me to be able to share all this bookish related content with you guys. And today I wanted to film a video about some of my favorite fall reads that I would recommend for the season, especially as we transition into the month of September and all of the fall vibes are coming on through. I have quite a large stack here, so instead of going into detail about each book, I'm just going to really share the title, give a brief idea of the genre, a quick one, maybe two-liner about the vibes of the book, and then we'll go from there. I hope you guys enjoy, and definitely leave me a comment if you make it to the end, because I would love to see what some of your favorite fall reads are, and if some of the ones mentioned in this video also make it on your list, I would love to know. It's reading time here at J-Bay's Corner. The first set of books that I kind of wanted to share have to do with that fantasy kind of magical realm, and I feel like there's so many different books that fit into this genre, and I definitely love quite a few fantasy novels and vampire novels and all these things. But again, I don't want to get into too much detail about any of the books because there are just so many of them. So I figured I would actually start with something that's kind of a magical realism series, and that is none other than Alice Hoffman's Practical Magic series. Now, these books are absolutely phenomenal. For those who haven't seen the movies, I highly recommend watching the Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman version of Practical Magic as well. It's very sweet, but these books basically follow families of women who have been cursed to never fall in love, but they're also witches and they have magical powers. They must successfully undo the curse that has been laid upon them in the first book, Magic Lessons, in order to be able to find love. And that is the vibes of the book. Very Halloween-y, very witchy, very appropriate for the fall season. This is also going to be in no particular order or no particular genre. We're just going to run through them because the stack is quite large. The next book I have here is actually Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This book is absolutely wonderful. It basically is a coffee shop where you go in and you sit at a specific table, and during that period of time, if you order a cup of coffee, you can visit any moment in your history of life, revisit it, get closure, and come back to the present moment, all within the period of the coffee becoming cold. You must return before the coffee gets cold. It's a collection of miniature stories, and it's absolutely lovely, very thought-provoking, a hug in a book, really, and it's just very emotionally beautiful, and I would definitely recommend. It's a very quick, fast-paced book as well. The next book I have on my list is Liane Moriarty. Now, this is just the first one I grabbed. She's written multiple different books. I do think all of them work, including Big Little Lies, which was turned into a TV series, Six Perfect Strangers, which was also turned into a mini TV series, and then The Husband's Secret is also being turned into either a movie or a TV series. I can't remember. But she basically writes psychological thriller, I guess, / murder thriller kind of vibes. Definitely works for the fall season. All these books are set in Australia. Many of them are set in the summertime. However, this one I felt like had a little bit more fall views. The Last Anniversary is basically about a woman who is thinking about the one that she thought got away and kind of going through the experience of revisiting the home that she used to be in. The next book I have here is actually a book that I read very recently. It is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This book is basically set in a dark academia kind of setting, and essentially characters in this have extra powers if they go through a certain transformation. In this case, it requires dying in order to gain these powers. Once they become extraordinary, they still live among the living, but they no longer have the same moral compasses that they had when they were just regular humans. In the midst of all this, we have two characters that have rivalry that starts brewing, basically friends turned enemies, and it's a great sci-fi, fiction, dark academia, kind of vibes novel, and I think it would be great for a fall read. V.E. Schwab is just absolutely amazing. Definitely recommend picking up one of her books, and Vicious and Vengeful were definitely some of my favorites. The next two books are actually young adult books. The first one is by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is called The Naturals. It's one of her original series. For anyone who read The Inheritance Games, this is the same author. The Naturals is a wonderful book because I personally feel like the series was very well done. It's about little kids who have basically, little kids meaning teenagers, who have basically been recruited by the FBI because they're noted to have a sixth skill that's basically been honed and grown because of experiences and traumas they've gone through in life. For example, one becomes a human lie detector, another one becomes able to read a person based on their physical tells, and another one becomes a profiler. So just very interesting characters. They get recruited by the FBI to solve cold cases, and one of the cold cases that comes across the desk is our main character's missing mother's case. Overall, great series, just really, really fun reads, fast-paced, entertaining. Definitely recommend checking out The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Next up, I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I think anyone who has been into reading and likes murder thriller mysteries has probably read this. This is a Holly Jackson novel. She just does a phenomenal job of writing young adult books, and not all of them read very young adult. Some of them do have some adult concepts in them, as is definitely seen in this series. But this is basically a story about a young girl who decides for her class project that she's going to figure out who actually committed the murder of a woman who went missing and was found murdered in their class. Everyone suspected that it was the boyfriend, but she's not fully convinced that's what happened. And so on her podcast, she basically records all of her steps getting there, and we get to follow along in the story. There are 3 books total in this. In my humble opinion, the first and second book are great. The third one was a little iffy. The novella that's prior to this was also absolutely incredible. Would definitely recommend. Great for that fall vibe. The next book that we have on our list today is one of my absolute favorites. This is a Dark Academia book. If you guys recently watched my favorites in Dark Academia video, this book was listed on there. If We Were Villains by ML Rio is perfect for the fall season. It's basically following a cast of characters at their school as they're navigating this prestigious school, trying to graduate in an elite status when a murder occurs, and they're basically going back in flashbacks and real time to tell the story of what happened all those years ago and who actually committed the murder. Great, 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 great book. And if you like Shakespeare, even better, because the vibes are definitely there. The next book I actually have to show you is a book of 5 books that has been put together into one book, but this is probably one of my favorite books of all times. This is the Mindfuck series by S.T. Addy. If anyone loved Brynne Weaver's stories, you'll probably like this too, but it has more of a thriller vibe. In this book, we have a woman who went through heck and back at her old town that she lived at. Her entire family basically ended up murdered in the process, and now she has come back to seek revenge on those who tormented her with the help of her best friend. She has basically found a new name, identity for herself, and she is a serial killer. And lo and behold, she bumps into an FBI agent who she ends up connecting with very, very closely, and they end up dating and becoming very close. And now we have an FBI agent and a serial killer that are basically together in the course of this book. The thriller mystery aspect of this book is absolutely phenomenal. The vibes of this book is very, very, I think, appropriate for autumn and fall. And the romance is just absolutely amazing. Definitely recommend this book. Then I have next here The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. She became very, very popular over the course of the past few years, but this particular story, I would say, is kind of like Hunger Games combined with vampires. Essentially, we have a woman who is under the care of the Vampire King, and there is a tournament that is taking place where she has entered as a human with vampire training to compete and take her throne at her father's side. In the games, she becomes friends with another vampire, and it's kind of an enemies to lovers story. It's fun. I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to give too much detail away about these books, but they're set up with 6 books in duology fashions. The first 4 books have been released. The first 2 books follow 2 characters. The next 2 books follow a different set of characters, and the next set will follow a third set of characters. But I can honestly say, I can honestly say that this is so much fun, and I definitely recommend it. I've actually liked it so much that I've bought it for a couple of my friends as a gift. Definitely recommend. If you're looking for that kind of vampire, trials, magic vibe, this is your girl. Next up, I have a retelling of The Great Gatsby, but with vampires. This is called A Beautiful Villain. It was written by Rebecca Kenny. She is redoing a lot of our great, epic, classic books in a modern twist. So, I apologize, a modern and supernatural twist. So this one is called Beautiful Villain, and it's basically following The Great Gatsby story. We have character references through name, and then we have similar vibes in terms of this character that was a childhood friend of Daisy's, disappeared, came back super rich, and like no one knows how that happened. They reconnect, and then there's a lot of intrigue that goes from there. Very well done. I did really enjoy this book. She's also written 2 other books in this series so far. One is the retelling of The Portrait of Dorian Gray, and I haven't actually read the 3rd one yet, so I'm not sure which classic it's a twist on. But overall, great book, and would definitely recommend. The next book I have is a romance. So we're coming full circle. This is Pumpkin Spice Cafe with Laurie Gilmore. I did recently talk about this book in other videos of mine. Very cute. If you like Gilmore Girls, that's basically the vibe of the story. We have a young woman who basically moves to a new small town that she doesn't know if she's going to do well or not. She decides to take over the bakery that's there, and she meets a grumpy man who basically helps her build up her shop. And then, of course, they fall in love. It's a Grumpy Sunshine classic trope, very much set in a small town that has its own characters and its own personality all together. So if you like Gilmore Girls, if you like Heart of Dixie, things like that, you will love this book. Definitely recommend. It was very popular for a reason. Definitely recommend The Pumpkin Spice Cafe for the fall vibes. Next up, I have The Lost Apothecary. Now, this one, I wouldn't say the book, the way that it's set up, I wouldn't necessarily say it's fall, but I do think the vibes of the book is fall. In this book, we have a woman in the modern world basically trying to navigate her life and figure out like where she wants to go from where she's at right now. She's reeling in her relationship. She's reeling in her career. She's just trying to figure things out. She ends up in London, and she comes across information that leads her into the story of the past. The past story is about a woman who basically runs an apothecary and her apprentice as well. And I know I'm not giving too much detail on this book, but the vibes of it is just amazing. And this apothecary is basically for women who want to buy poisons. So definitely recommend. It's just so much fun, and it's such a great read. And Sarah Penner did a phenomenal job. Keep in mind, this is her debut book, so the writing is not, I think, the best that she has to offer, but it is quite excellent for a debut novel. And the story was absolutely chef's kiss. I do recommend for the fall. Next up, I have some Fredrik Backman. Can't not talk about Fredrik Backman's Anxious People. This book is just so great, and especially in the current season of The Unknown, this is absolutely a fun read. It's spectacularly satirical, it's very entertaining, and yet heartwarmingly deep. This book is basically telling the story about a bunch of people who are at an apartment when a robbery happens at the apartment. The police get involved, and when they get there, no one wants to say who the robber actually was. It's set in an interview kind of fashion with jumping timelines, but the story itself is just absolutely incredible. Fredrik Backman just has a way of writing where it's very simple sentence structure, but the story will just come out absolutely beautifully and phenomenally. For me personally, this was a very fall vibes book because it's all about new beginnings and new starts, and I just absolutely adored it. Next up, I had to include some TJ Klune. I have Under the Whispering Door. This series is absolutely, this is not a series, this is a standalone. I don't know why I said that. This book is absolutely adorable. It's set in a little, it's set in a little tea shop, and at this tea shop, you basically can go in, and it also has the door to move on to the new world. And so here at this tea shop, they basically have individuals that help guide spirits to the next stage of their journey. However, we also have a romance that brews in this story between our tea shop owner / house owner and the new ghost that's come to be a resident at the location, looking to transition on to the next stages of his life. We have a lot of heartwarming moments where we have to see the main character go through struggles of dealing with the choices he made in his past lives and the person he was in his past life to who he grows to be even after the passing that occurs in his life. Just very well written, very enjoyable. I do strongly recommend this book. It's just so sweet, so heartwarming, and I guarantee you will cry at least once. It was just that good. Next up, I have two books that I actually will be talking about very soon, if not already, in my reading wrap-up series, and that is none other than Ava Reid's A Study in Drowning and A Theory in Dreaming. Now, these books are very intense, they're very dark, they're very heavy, but they're beautifully written stories, which combines an element of magical realism and dark academia and a cold, wintry kind of forest. Not forest, I would say cold, wintry, like flash flood warning, war-ridden kind of environment, but at the same time you have two characters that are living to prove that magic does or does not exist and the importance of magic in sustaining the morale of the various countries that are, or I guess state, I don't really know whether they're states or countries or what they are, but the two groups that are at war. It's a very, very powerful story, very beautifully written. Our main characters are very ephemeral and whimsical in their own ways, and they also have a lot of depth to them in their own ways. They're broken in their own ways. They're very relatable characters, and so I would strongly recommend these. Like I said, they were a little bit dark. I do wish I read them closer to the end, like maybe in end of September or beginning of November timeframe, but I still think that they are perfect fall reads, and I definitely think the ambiance that's created by these books is appropriate for fall. The next book I want to recommend is Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus. This is by Lydia Shearer. If you're a fan of Harry Potter and you want something that's kind of like that fun, fantasy, fast-paced, cats, libraries, magic, that kind of vibe. I'm sorry, it's just being sick, guys. I apologize. It's like only 9 o'clock. I don't know why I'm so tired. But in this book, you get all of that. We have a librarian who is just trying to make her way in life, and her best friend, who is a warlock and also a hot mess. Very, very sweet person, but consistently finds himself in difficult situations. And of course, in the midst of all of this, you also have our famous talking cat. Now, this series is a self-published series by the author Lydia Shearer. You can find her in various locations, but she does have her own website that if you buy from that, you're supporting the author as well. I really enjoyed this. I think the story of Lily Singer and her friends and the adventures they go on is very cute. It's very reminiscent of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Harry Potter kind of vibes. So if you enjoyed those types of series, kind of that young, not quite young adult, but that coming of age and that magic and all of that kind of stuff, and also a romance that's like building throughout the series, this is definitely a great book to read. I think in total there are 9 books in this series. I have only read 2 of them. I do hope to get back to the rest of the series this October to finish it up, but I did thoroughly enjoy the first 2 that I read. It is also composed of short mini stories as well within the book. So perfect to just pick up, enjoy a story, put it down, and you don't feel like you missed out by closing the book because you did finish that chapter before you move on to the next story. Such a fun read, definitely recommend. The next book I have on my list is the Zodiac Academy series. Now this is a ridiculously long series with all the books combined. It's like 24 books or something like that. It's insane. This is the first book told in the perspective of the boys, which actually comes as the 6th book that you'll read in specifically the Zodiac Academy series. However, the first book is called The Awakening. Now, the one thing I will say about this, magic, fae galore, you get a lot of fall vibes, you get like crazy villains that you're fighting, but the romance in this book and the actual character development in this book for the first few books is very challenging to read because these are bully romances, and they are true bully romances, so just be aware of that. You really hate the boys going into the series, and then you learn to like them, and they redeem themselves throughout the series as the girls also come into their power. But initially when you're reading this, it is a little hard to stomach the bullying. So I just want to put that out there as a heads up, but I do think like outside of that, it's a great series and it's worth reading. I managed to read all of the books in this series literally in one sitting in October, and so October, November, I don't remember if I crossed into December or not, but I went through these books pretty fast. So I strongly recommend reading these. They're also available for free on Kindle Unlimited. And there's also audio versions of this book as well if you prefer to consume your books through audio. The next book I have to show you guys is one of my absolute favorites. This is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. She's one of my favorite authors of all time. This is definitely a fall vibes book. Basically, we have a woman who's trying to solve the murdering of her twin sister who has gone missing and was found brutally murdered, and her body being staged. When our main character decides to go out looking for the culprit as to who killed her sister, believing that she's a witch and being born into a witch family, she has to call upon assistance, and the only way to do it is to reach out to those who they have been taught to fear the most since their childhood, which is none other than the Prince of Sin. So unwittingly, she ends up calling upon one of the Prince of Sin's, Wrath, and when he shows up, they have to work together in a search to figure out who the murderer was of her sister. It's an enemies to lovers series. This is 3 books in total, and it primarily follows the characters of Emilia and Wrath. Absolutely phenomenal series. Loved them. Since then, Kerri Maniscalco has also done spin-off series about the Princes of Sin. There have been 2 that are released so far, and the 3rd one is coming out later at the beginning of 2026. The first book was about Prince Envy. The second book in that series was about Prince Gluttony, and the 3rd book that will be coming out is about Prince Sloth. Overall, just great reads, great vibes, and if you love enemies to romance and you like spice and you like a morally gray character, this is it. This is such a great fall read as well. Definitely recommend. Next up, I have another series that I'm absolutely obsessed with. While I said the other series was all spice, this is no spice. This is closed door, very minimal romance. This is slow burn. This is all those things set in a whimsical fantasy world where the villain is the greatest character. So we have our main character who inadvertently finds herself in a position where she is studying as the assistant to the villain in order to help him out at his castle because she needs paid work in order to support her father and her sister. Throughout the course of the book, we go through various journeys. We have talking frogs, all kinds of crazy things that come about, and she slowly starts to feel more and more comfortable with the villain that is her savior and her employer. The slow burn romance between them is also very cute to read, and obviously they're both very, very attracted to each other, but hard pressed to act upon it because at the end of the day, it's boss and employee. Definitely recommend picking up this book. The 3rd book in this series just came out, and I can't wait to sink my teeth into that book. Next up, I'm going to show all 3 of these as if they're one book because they're all written by the same author. So we have the first book in her most recent series, which is the Crescent City series, which is The House of Earth and Blood. This series is not complete. A 4th book will be coming out. We also have A Court of Thorn and Roses, which I'm sure many of us have heard of, and I absolutely adore this book. Also just wanted to show the beauty of this special edition copy. It's just so pretty. But then we also have The Assassin's Blade, which is either the prequel or oftentimes the 3rd book that people read in this series. But all 3 of these books have been written by the wonderful Sarah J. Maas. If you're looking for a fantasy where you can just fall into the world completely and fall in love with all the characters, and you want to understand the Sarah J. Maas hype, this is where it's at. Definitely recommend picking up any book from any of these 3 series. I would recommend starting with the Throne of Glass series, so starting with the Assassin's Blade, then moving to finishing that series, then moving into A Court of Thorn and Roses, and then finishing off with the Crescent City. But honestly speaking, you can start the series in any order that you want. All of these books are so great. Your female characters are your main characters. They're going through multiple different adventures. The romances are absolutely phenomenal. And the vibes are just so pristinely fall because of the lovely fantasy aspect. Definitely recommend picking them up if you guys have a chance. The next book I have is The Husbands by Holly Gramazino. This one's really fun. It's basically about a woman who, every time she opens up the attic, there's a new husband that pops out on her. And she's basically trying on husbands like you would hats. Throughout the course of this book, she learns more about herself and her journey to figuring out what it means to have excess amount of choice and what it means to actually make a choice. And she also realizes that the unknown is some of the best parts of life. That being said, this is such a fun read. It's a contemporary novel. It's not necessarily a hardcore fall book in terms of the seasonal vibes of this book, but I just feel like with the depth of this book and the social commentary, especially on this dating life that we have now where it's like swipe, 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 It's just such a fun book to read, and I definitely think it'll talk to a lot of people. And because it does have that vibe of just kind of making you think and kind of sitting with it, I just think it's more appropriate for fall for that reason. But this could technically be an all-season read. It's maybe not the best book to put in this video, but for me, it's a fall choice. The next book I have is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This is your classic dark academia kind of vibe again. This is basically about a woman who ends up at a school campus basically trying to protect one of her loved ones as she finds out that women's bodies have been disappearing, especially linked to this one particular man. And as she starts going through this journey of figuring out what's going on, the plot twists in this book are absolutely great. Definitely recommend. Alex Michaelides as a general author is just phenomenal, but I feel like The Maidens was really perfect for a fall vibe book. I also have here The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book I think is absolutely phenomenal. Again, it's not necessarily a fall vibe. It's more of a summer read actually, but I feel like in terms of the feeling in the book, but I think because of the story, the journey the author takes you on, and the fact that it makes you think a lot about the meaning of, you know, societal success and what it means to live your own truth. This was a very powerful book, and it's very thought-provoking. So for me, it was more of a fall read for that reason. But I absolutely love this book, and regardless of what season you pick this book up, I think you will enjoy it. Next up, I have a series. This is The Ex-Hex and The Kiss Curse. This is just a fun, fast-paced, quirky series. It has 3 books in total. The third book is called The Wedding Witch, but it's basically following a story of 3 brothers who are warlocks who are basically finding their soulmates. It is set in small town vibes. It's very cute. I would say it's adjacent to the Pumpkin Spice Cafe in terms of the cute small town vibes, but then it also has the magic and the fun that you get in a series like Practical Magic blended into an easy, fun face pass read. These are spicy books though, so just keep that in mind if you decide to pick them up. The next book I would recommend is Phantasma. This is one of my absolute favorite books that I have read in quite some time. It is kind of a blend of paranormal along with Hunger Games, along with Caraval. It's so much fun. It's basically like, you know, people competing in tasks that will essentially protect them and save their lives. So they're basically doing this in order to survive, but at the same time, you have the feels and the vibes of the magic and the world that's created in Caraval, just set in the underworld. This is a supernatural romance, paranormal romance, and it is absolutely incredible. This was chef's kiss for me. In fact, I see this being reread very, very soon this October, and I would strongly recommend this book as well as the second book in the series, Enchantra. Next up, I have Ninth House. Now, I did briefly touch on this in my Dark Academia book recommendations. This is set in Yale. It's basically around the world of secret societies and ghosts and mystical things that are happening, murder that takes place, as well as just elitist vibes versus the individuals who are coming in on scholarships and things like that. Just perfect for the fall autumnal season because of the setting and the story, but also very, very, very appropriate for a Dark Academia read as well. The last book that I have on my list today is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This book is set in the Bartholomew, which is an apartment complex that is very famous in New York. And this woman basically gets hired to house sit or flat sit for a woman, and she ends up there very happy thinking, oh, I'm so excited, it's a fully furnished apartment. Well, all of a sudden people start to go missing, and that is the mystery and the question of the day. This is a great book, such a fun read, psychological kind of thriller vibes, and even though the park is sunny and she's in like more of a summery feel, I just feel like because of the thriller vibes, it definitely still fits into the fall setting, and I hope that people who read this book feel the same way. I'm a huge fan of Riley Sager, so I also feel like any Riley Sager you pick up is not going to disappoint you, but this one's probably one of my favorites because it was my first Riley Sager that I ever read, and I did happen to read it over the fall time. And that brings us to the end of this video. I realize this was a ridiculously long one, so if you guys made it this far, congratulations. Give yourselves a pat on the back, and definitely let me know which of the books struck your fancy the most in the comment section below. I would love to know what is on your fall TBR and what books you guys would recommend. Heck, maybe I could add it to my fall TBR list. So definitely let me know. For those of you that are new here, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more bookish related content, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday. For those of you that are returning, thank you again for being here. Thank you for your support. It means the absolute world to me, and I can't create this bookish community without you guys. And I do truly, truly appreciate each and every one of you. I just want to say to all of you who watched this video and who are here with me today that I hope you and your loved ones are doing well, and regardless of whether it's morning, evening, or night, that you guys are having a wonderful day. I have nothing else to say on this particular video, so I will catch you on the next one. But as always, it was beautiful to see everybody, and I hope you guys had wonderful, wonderful, cherished Labor Day weekend. Bye, guys.